Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 66 for Tuesday, October 8th, 2013. Welcome back, guys. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and this week's editor, and today I'm joined by...
Burnda1, the special guest coordinator.
I'm FlutterGuy317. I'm the media manager.
And I'm Ebospark. I don't do a whole lot.
That's...
Aww.
Well, I mean...
you ask questions,
you
dude.
do a little, like, introduce yourself. It's always so sad.
Yeah,
I know.
well, I mean,
you ask questions, you do the plugs, you're like...
questions and plugs.
I run this place.
You're my hero,
I
too.
run this place. Oh, man. So, before we start, I would like to talk about something that happened recently on DeviantArt, which I love, because I think that it's one of the best things that they've come up with recently. And a lot of times when changes are made to sites,
Can I guess?
Is it the stars?
Is it, the stars? That they changed the icons?
You're going to be seeing stars soon. No, it's not the stars. What I was going to say was usually when they change stuff, it's either insignificant, stars, or it's features new features that a lot of people don't like. But what I think they did really well was they added something new recently within the last couple of weeks, and that was the mentions. And that's a feature on DeviantArt where if your name is linked, so if your DeviantArt is linked or your picture is shown, there's a couple of commands in DeviantArt that you can put in that will put the person's picture or their name for people to click through and go to your DeviantArt page.
If your username is put somewhere as a link,
basically,
then it'll come up.
And so whenever that happens, whenever someone does that, either in a comment or in the description of a piece, you will get a notification in the same kind of notifications area, which is fantastic for us in particular, because I have an issue where people will make fan art of us, or particularly me, and then never tell me about it, and they'll just leave it. And unfortunately, I can't follow every single person who's ever made me fan art. So I have a hard time catching up with this kind of stuff if people don't send me particular notes or things like that. But now that's not a big deal because now I get to see. I've already had it happen where somebody's made me something that they didn't tell me about, and I've seen it in my little thing, and I've been like, "Oh yay, this is of me." So I think that there's no. I think really, I mean, because it's a message form. Yes, you could technically spam it, but it's so easy to get rid of those messages that I don't think there's much of a downside to it, really.
No, I think it's great, and I personally, on all of the vectors that I create, I put down, if you use this, feel free to go ahead, just credit me and send me a link, because I want to see what people make. And half the time, people will put credit down, but they won't send me a link, and then it's
right, so now I'll be able to see that
Even
credit.
for, vector artists, it's great, because when you link and, source the original artist, if you're vectoring, artwork and stuff, that artist will know that they've been credited and, that their work's been vectored and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You don't, contact them directly.
Yeah, I think other than that, spam is a thing that's going to happen always, but you could argue that for things like notes too. So and of course, notes are a great thing. So I think we'll see that this is a really good thing. As long as people don't abuse it too much. I think it'll still be fun though.
Still waiting for the day where I can move 127 pages of favorites to one folder.
I'm still waiting for the day when favorites folders get subfolders. Why is that not a thing? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Considering
I didn't realize you guys didn't have mentions. I didn't realize it was just a beta tester.
Oh, was it a beta tester thing?
Right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have it until recently. I'm a beta tester.
Really? I had it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I had it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, but
I don't know. What we're talking
well, I had it. Well, anyways. Okay. Anyways. We've actually got a guest on this week, don't we, Burn?
Hooray. Yeah. Today we have yet another guest.
Yay!
Today on the show we have Celebi-Yoshi, aka DawnFire. So thank you for sitting quietly while we babble about DeviantArt. It's nice to have you on the show.
Yay, thank you.
So your DeviantArt is Celebi-Yoshi, but we'll be referring to you as the online name that you use the most, which is DawnFire or Dawn, just in case anyone was confused. But DawnFire and Dawn are two names that are nicer to say, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and your OC is called DawnFire, and
yes.
So yeah.
So it's a nice little matchup there.
Pony-centric names.
Although we're not referring to ourselves as our own pony names, because that's just a disaster.
No. It says you.
Only because you named your pony after
Bright
you.
Ember.
Oh, shut up.
But Burn Pony is Sunshine Smiles.
Burned
What's
pony.
How was that named after? How was that named after Burned?
Burned pony is just burned.
Burned is not smiley or sunshiny.
That's true. What a depressing individual.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank God he's not here.
Oh. Anyhow, so one of the things that we've asked all of our guests, just to kind of get people to know who you are, because some people might not have heard of you, is who are you and what do you do?
Oh wow,
Art-related.
that's a
Open question.
who am I and what do I do? I am an artist. I guess I've been doing digital art for a long time, since like the days of using MS Paint and making really terrible fan art, and that became a lot of pony fan art once ponies invaded the internet, with the rise of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and that's what I've been doing the most of these days, I guess. Lots of pony fan art. And of course fan art for the other things I love. I guess that's how I identify. Fan artist. Woo!
Yay. So now, Bernd and I met you at BronyCon this past year, which was really cool. And you were selling a lot of your prints there. A lot of your more recent My Little Pony prints. So how was the con experience for you?
This year's con?
Yeah. BronyCon it's so huge that it must have been like kind of overwhelming, maybe.
I
or-
was actually quite sick during the con.
no.
I didn't realize that until afterwards that I was very, very sick. I just had gotten mono and strep throat. And I was really chugging. Like, I was doing just, like, could you guys tell that I was dying? Probably not.
No,
I can
no,
tell
not at
that
all.
your voice was actually a little bit more, like, kind of raspy, but you get used to that at conventions and stuff because everyone's been shouting and yelling and talking to thousands of people that everyone kind of has, like, a
Yeah,
tired
so
voice, you
I don't
know?
know. I just thought it was the con, but I was actually, like, really struggling. And, but anyway, sorry, I don't know. I'm bringing that up because, like, that was, like, the big thing for me at the con this year. I was like, wow, I feel kind of like a zombie. But the thing is, like, I didn't even notice it that much because it's just, like, so overwhelming. There's so much to do and so much to see, and people are always talking to you.
Yeah.
So I was, like, distracted from the fact that I was starving and very, very sick.
Yeah, no, it was
Aw.
awesome to see you there at the con. It was great to go like meet all of our like artists that we had known from online and stuff. And I mean, we've actually featured you on the show before. I remember we mentioned, oh, we featured your art on the show before, and while we were at your table, and you're like, oh my gosh, like that was cool. You actually had the print for sale. It was the Cutie Art Crusaders up on your little board above your table.
Oh, so flattering.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? We bought some prints from you, and then after we had initially bought like one or two prints, you just had like these little mini prints, and you just started throwing them at throwing them at us. Like, here, take these, and now I have like 7 prints on my wall. They won't fit in my little frame anymore.
My plan
I'm jealous.
all along. Yeah, well, no one was buying Applejack, so it was actually really important that I threw Applejack at people.
Oh, but that's such a cute Applejack pose.
I want people to love Applejack, so
Yeah.
just spread the Applejack love.
I really like the little prints, the style that you used on them. It's really cool. It's very sketchy.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, speaking of the little prints that we're actually mentioning or talking about, we'll put them on the screen for people, but you actually have this little series of, like, you call them sketches in some of your descriptions. They're like little sketch prints of pieces that you've made of, like, Derpy, Lyra, Twilight, and Applejack. And they're just little pictures, and they're doing something silly or making, like, an expression. But these little pieces have become ridiculously popular. I mean, they're actually what I had first seen of your work, like, you know, being spread around the Brony web, as it were, these little sketches. What do you think about this, like, the little popularity of how popular little, like, Derpy sketch especially has become?
Yeah, the Derpy sketch, that one always surprises me at how popular that one is. I don't know why. Like, I don't want to say, like, I think it's terrible, because I certainly don't. Like, I love it, and I think it's really cute, but I just know it's not, like, quite as fleshed out as some of my other artworks that I sell. But that one is just so popular. The first year I went to BronyCon, which was the year before this summer, I didn't print that many Derpies because I assumed that people would go for, like, the really dramatic ones, like Luna or Zecora or something with a lot of color. And but Derpy was by far the most popular one. Derpy sold out in like 2 hours. I don't even know how.
Because it's derpy.
Yeah, no, it's because it's Derpy.
Yeah.
So those have been a lot more popular than I thought they would be. So then I started continuing on making more ponies for a little watercolor sketch pony collection I have. And yeah, I mean, they're really fun to make, and I really like to make watercolor textures, and it's a good opportunity to put ponies on top of watercolors. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Water
cool.
looks pretty.
Watercolor ponies aren't exactly something that we see a lot of. So has watercolor always been something that you're interested in?
I guess I really like traditional art. Digital art's cool. You can do a lot of things with it, but I like the textures that you can find in traditional art. I really like watercolor textures, if that's not totally apparent. I've been playing with oil colors a little lately. The oil paints, there we go. Oh my god, so tired. Definitely paper textures, textures found in nature, stuff like that. I mean, it's just like layering that into your artwork can make it look so much more real, and I don't know, it adds another dimension. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Good
we've
times.
actually talked about that a little bit on the show. How artists will work in that, even in Photoshop, they'll put that texture of something more real or like visceral that, we know from the real world, whether it be like watercolor paper and like on your Derpy sketch or whatever, like a Trill always puts, what is it? Some kind of random texture on the background of his pieces, even in the super quick ones, just to give it that something to like that you can kind of grasp to on the piece.
Mm-hmm.
But it does give it that extra level, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
really hard to
we
make by hand.
talked about it just because it's a technique that's used because in the real world we don't see a lot of consistent colors, and even in things with consistent colors, like if you're going to paint a wall, the wall is still not a perfect line, so it's not going to be, even if it's the same color, it's going to have its own texture. And so that's something you can do in an art piece when you don't have a lot of shading or something to make it not seem so stilted and one color. You can add these textures. It's the same thing with, like, for example, if you're going to have a background of one color, and instead of having a background, you make it a gradient. It just adds a little bit of variation that goes into your brain and makes you go, oh yeah, no, that makes a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So now with these small prints, did you is the whole thing a watercolor, or is just the background, or is it a traditional watercolor, or did you take the texture from somewhere like digital, or?
No, the watercolors I use are all textures that I've made myself in real life from real watercolors on real watercolor paper, and then I scan them in. However, I am not so cool as to be able to draw the pony on the watercolor paper and then do the watercolor. What happens is I draw the pony on another piece of paper, scan that in, and then I overlay that onto the watercolor background. So, yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
But both of them are technically traditionally done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
just
both
overlaid.
were traditional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just on top of each other.
So, do you prefer working with traditional medium, or do you like stepping over to the digital as well, or?
I always draw, the lines are always traditional, if there are lines. I cannot do lines in any digital medium. I can't do it. It's too hard, too much for me. Which is something you might have noticed in my art. Nothing has lines on it unless it's traditional. So I'll
We
always
have noticed.
always start out with a pen sketch and just work with that, or I'll have some really light pencil lines and then I'll color those in on the computer. So if I'm going to do any painting, if I'm going to do any color, I want it to be on the computer, but if I'm making textures or if I'm making lines, it's got to be traditional because there's no other way I can do it.
Interesting. There's a piece here that I wanted to bring up because it's got kind of that combination of, especially now that you've talked about the fact that you do all of your lines on paper on a traditional medium. There's a piece here of Vinyl Scratch and Octavia called Hurts So Good, and this is obviously colored in a digital program, but you can very visibly see the traditional lines, and those lines were actually made very traditionally. So it's an interesting blend. Am I right? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not too well versed in the traditional, but what did you do with this piece?
This one I never intended to actually color. I didn't know it would go anywhere. I just, well, what was I thinking about? I don't know. I didn't think I had any pieces that had Vinyl and Octavia together, and I was thinking about how cute they are. I was like, I'm going to draw them. So I did, and it was super sketchy like this. And it's actually, like, really small in real life. Like, I think that this was, like, maybe 4 inches wide.
Really?
Yeah, it's really small. That's why the lines are so fat now.
Yeah.
When you see it, it's because, whoa, it's really tiny. That's why I never intended to go anywhere with it. And then I scanned it in, and it looked really, I don't know. I loved how it's all, like, sketchy. That's a really technical term right there,
No,
sketchy.
we've become fans of sketchy over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I just ended up giving it this weird, super colorful, super saturated coating of awesomeness, and now it's
Like the
colored.
saturated colors. Makes it stand out.
It seems to work really, really well.
Yay!
It's weird because with ponies, like with the show itself, the colors are very not saturated at all. And like if people are drawing to be traditional to their or to draw towards the show, you know, you kind of try and push them to draw with not saturated colors. But a piece like this really works well because of the bright saturated color, and it's not like overbearing colors because there's it's not like the entire piece is oversaturated. It's these little pieces of color that really work well together.
Highlights and stuff.
Yeah, so it's really cool.
Yay!
Yeah, speaking about color, a lot of your pieces use kind of that crazier, more out there color. You seem to have a lot of fun with it. Would you like to talk about maybe the colors you use or why you use them?
I can talk about my 2 favorite colors to use, which I use in almost every single piece that involves shading, which I actually I think I need to break out of that a little bit. I love orange and I love like purplish blue colors. I love them so much that I shade with them in almost every single picture I do. Even when the light isn't an orangish color, I have a really bad habit of doing it. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, actually, I was just about to interject there and say that it is a good thing because something we've talked about on the show is that warm light will cast cool shadows. So what you do is on some of your pieces, like your Spit Dash piece with Spitfire and Rainbow Dash, there's definitely a warm light on the ponies, but when you're shading like Spitfire, you're using that dark purple that you love so much and that violet. And I mean, those contrasting colors of the warm to cool on any kind of shading will always work really well. You actually have lots of pieces that use that. A Fluttershy piece, a Twilight piece, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, I love purple and I love orange, and I like to abuse them. I like to use them all over the place. And I think that a lot of like the really bright saturated colors and bright saturated shadows, for that matter, come from the fact that I really love to use the overlay tool thing in Photoshop, because it just, I don't know. I wrote a little oh my god, what's it called when you make steps and tell people a tutorial? Yes, I made a tutorial about how I shade things at one point, and I wrote that overlay is a privilege, not a right. And I think that's true, and I also kind of go against that a lot, and I use it like it's a right. And it's definitely not. Like, you can totally mess something up with overlay. You can make it hurt your eyes. And I think I might go overboard sometimes, but you know what? It's worth it. It's awesome.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about that, because I think a good point to make is a lot of people will look at an art piece and they'll say this person did this for this reason or blah, blah, blah. But another interesting thing is when you are experimenting with different things, a lot of your style can come straight from the programs and the different tools that you use. And people can mold their own style just based on a preference for a certain brush or a certain thing like an overlay. So, you know, as much as you might see that as not a great thing, I think that's a perfectly natural part of it. I think a lot of people do that. I'm not sure if you guys have found that, but I've found my own personal style, even through vectors and things like that, come straight from the tools that I'm using.
Yeah, no, I was just being hard on myself, really.
Well,
It's okay, all artists are.
Yeah. It definitely gives your pieces a very unique kind of feel, because
Unique flair.
Yeah, you do use the blue or the oranges and the purples and stuff to shade, and it's not like it's kind of a very hard orange and a very hard purple, and not too many artists use that, and it's a thing that works to your advantage in the pieces, and it makes them like uniquely yours. It's really cool.
Yeah. speaking of more uniquality, I think I made that word up, but whatever.
Okay.
A piece I wanted to bring up, you mentioned that you can only do line art traditionally, correct?
Yes.
So you don't do line art digitally at all?
I've tried it a few times, though not recently. Really, I don't. I just can't. I don't...
Well, from what I can see in your DeviantArt gallery, I mean, I can't really see any examples of digital line art. Everything's kind of shaded without, or painted without those outlines, and that's something that when we featured your work, we've brought up that, and almost every single piece you make, you love not using outlines, and we thought that was more of a conscious decision, but now it's kind of funny to hear that it's just, that's something that you tend to avoid because you don't like making those digital outlines, but yet your painted pieces on that you're making of these ponies are phenomenal. They're great. They're coming out fantastic without outlines.
Woo!
And a piece that we actually talked about that was curious to us was this Fluttershy piece, because in the Fluttershy piece that you have, it has a few outlines on things, and you can actually see a little bit of line work on Fluttershy, and especially like in her hair and in her ear, and face and wings, and she's like half outlined. And then the background has no outlines at all, where the foreground has really thick black outlines. So this was really curious to us, and it was awesome because it was mixing up, though, like from like outlined art and unoutlined, and it was like mixing these two realms of like the outlines you usually don't use in your work. Do you want to talk a little bit about this piece, or like how you went into crafting it, or your thought behind it?
Okay, yeah. Actually, I think this was at a point where I was thinking about outlines and how I don't have them in any of my art. So it's like, I'm going to go for a piece that has outlines, which meant, of course, that they had to be traditional. So this was, I think, at one point, 8.5 by 11 or whatever that is, the regular paper size piece of printer paper. And I just sat down and drew a whole bunch of flowers. Then I drew Fluttershy, and I scanned that in, and I went to work coloring it. And as usual, when I'm coloring anything that has line art, I'm getting incredibly frustrated with the fact that I have to stay in the lines, and I'm frustrated with the way I drew the lines, and just like, oh, why did I do lines? So I started getting really angry as I was working on it, and I think that's why Fluttershy ended up with like half lines, half not lines, because I had to fix some of it. I was like, this isn't right, this line doesn't look good, gotta get rid of this line. So some of Fluttershy is on top of the line art instead of under it. It made for a cool effect. I think I consciously went over the areas where the line art would have been on her highlighted sections, like her back and her tail. I don't think that made any sense.
No, it made perfect sense, actually. I can see what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. So I was thinking about lines. I was thinking a lot about them, and this was my attempt at bringing lines to my painted artwork, and I don't think I'm going to do it again.
I think it worked really well. I can, like, that struggle of you battling your own lines and painting over them and leaving some, it made a really cool effect. I mean, there are things that have those distinct outlines, like the flower, and it really kind of pops and brings them forward. But I mean, the tree in the background that you clearly just hand painted to your fancy, it turned out great as well in all the colors. So you clearly have this experience and knowledge about color that seems to come out in a lot of your pieces.
Yay!
Can I just say, we love when artists upload that step-by-step process of how they made these good pieces, and you've put one there from your Tumblr, DawnFire.
I did, yes, that's like the only time I've ever done that, so good for me.
We love it when people do that, so thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting in terms of just giving the piece depth too. I mean, it wasn't something that you necessarily consciously did have that struggle with Fluttershy and her lines, but the rest of your piece, the flowers in the foreground, have not as much struggle there, and they're much more clearly defined. And then in the midground, we have some of the lily pads, which are kind of outlined, kind of not, and then we have Fluttershy, who's in the midground as well, who has these semi-outlines, and then the background's not outlined at all. So, I'm not sure if it was conscious or not, but you did manage to get this really interesting effect with the outlines in depth. So maybe considering, using that fighting to a good, using that fighting for a better use, because it seemed to have come out quite nicely in this piece, even though you were fighting with it.
Oh, you guys, you're so nice to me. You're encouraging me to not be lazy. Not be lazy and draw some lines. Fine.
What can we say, though? We're fans.
Yeah. It's true. So going back to kind of colors, drifting away from the whole lines discussion, I noticed in a lot of your pieces, you tend to use this really vibrant blue, mostly in the Rarity piece called Rarity at Work.
Rarity!
Yay! With this blue translucent kind of material that she's working with. And there's also a Zecora piece, which is Those Flowers Are Not a Joke. With
some of your earlier work.
Yeah, the really bright blue, vibrant flowers, the Poison Joke. It's yeah.
Which I'm sure we've featured before.
Quick question.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a question.
I don't think we have featured it before.
No. But
Which piece?
the Zecora one?
It's been brought up as a piece we wanted to feature, but we haven't worked it into an episode.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess today is the day.
Yay. No, I just I think it's really interesting the way that you use the colors in the pieces, because they are a bit more vibrant. Like going back to the vinyl scratch and the Octavia piece, the colors that you use are a bit more vibrant, but they really capture your eye. So yeah.
Did the Poison Joke in the episode glow?
No, definitely not.
Well, that's an interesting take. Why'd you decide to make them glow here?
Because, okay, I already admitted that I love orange and purple. I also love blue things that glow. So there you go. You guys found that. It's
Oddly
one
specific.
of my things.
Yeah.
I love. You know, if something's gonna glow, it had better be blue. So there you go.
I can sympathize with you on that one. I feel the same way. I love blue glowy things.
Really?
I have a weakness for all of those.
I'm actually more preferable to green glowy things, but maybe that's just me.
Oh, I think that vinyl might have a green glow stick in that picture we were talking about earlier. Maybe is it green or is it pink?
It's green.
Yeah,
It's green. Okay, there you go.
green.
Yeah, green is an okay glowy color too. I'm gonna go with green and blue. Good glowy colors.
Violet's actually a very good glowy color, but I mean, sometimes use that for shading.
Burn.
All right, tangent. Sorry, but anyway, let's bring up the pieces right before some of your earlier pony pieces, because it looks like you have a lot of work in your DeviantArt. You've been making art for quite the while.
Oh my god, I do.
So,
It goes back until like the sad old days of
yeah,
sad old art
early,
programs.
more beginner arts, you know.
Oh yeah,
But it's
all
nice
here.
to see. It's nice to see how he's progressed as an artist, and that's what I want to bring up.
Oh no.
Some of your first pony pieces, you're using lines, you're using outlines, and I can see them. And they're awesome. I can see that you're not using the Inkscape, like, line balance thing. I can see those lines are carved into there on the ponies, and it's awesome. They're very... You can really see how, like, you've put your hand into the outlining, and then you just, like, transition into this. You know what? Forget lines. I'm going to make these amazing painted pieces.
Oh.
Yeah, and suddenly out of nowhere we have these really incredible pieces, and I think one of the most incredible ones, and it's part of a series, so we'll go over each one quickly. But the very first one, and it's one of the, if you go through from oldest to newest, it's one of the most quickly spectacular ones, is your Princess Luna piece, which is, you know, obviously quite it's not the newest piece, but it still to this day is one of the best Luna pieces I've seen in a long time, and we've been waiting to feature this one actually. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the process behind this, because according to the description you worked on that for quite a while, didn't you?
I did actually. That was because I was making the transition between using mostly Photoshop for painting to using mostly Paint Tool Sai. Is that how you say it, Sai?
Yep,
That's how I say it.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it SAI, Sai, whatever?
Yeah.
So I was becoming incredibly jealous of all the Windows users who could use this other program that I had never used before, but I assumed must be vastly superior to Photoshop, because all the artists who used it produced really amazing work. I was like, that's my problem. That's my problem right there. So
Figure it out.
It was somewhere, and let's see, when did I was working on this in December. Yeah, you know, this was probably a winter break project of mine, and I made a point of downloading Windows onto my Mac and then getting Sai. I got a Windows just to get Sai, and then I transitioned this picture over into the Windows half, and to work on it there. And I was very pleased with my decision to get Psy because, wow, it's really fun. It makes really fun clouds. Oh my god, I had so much fun drawing clouds. That's another reason this picture took so long. I was like, what do I want the background to be? And to this day, I'm kind of not satisfied with it. But
those bottom clouds I really enjoy, though, by her feet, where they kind of transition into violet into orange. Like that, I think those are done really well.
Well, thank you. I'm glad
and
to
orange.
hear that. Yeah, purple and orange. There you go. I couldn't pick a background, so it ended up being purple and orange clouds.
You defaulted there to your favorites.
Yep. Totally. So yeah, I think it took so long because I was doing that switch and I was getting used to Psy. This is like the first time I ever used it was on this picture, and I had a blast with it. And then I guess I probably brought it back into Photoshop afterwards and put some effects and textures and things. Yeah. First time I ever did that process. After this picture, every single Painterly picture I have has been done in Photoshop and Psy. So the first, good times. Good times.
Cool. Well, that's interesting because a lot of people usually think like when you're creating a piece that it's going to be done completely in one single program, but for instance like this piece and some of the other pieces, it's not. And even like with the traditional stuff, it's, you know, you scan it in and bring it in and then manipulate it. So it's interesting that you did part of this in Psy and part of it in Photoshop, because you know, if you're creating a piece, it doesn't always have to be done in just one program. You can kind of transfer it between programs.
Do you still use multiple programs when you do things, or have you fully transitioned to Psy?
No, I totally still use multiple programs. When I use, this applies pretty much only to the super painterly, fancy three-dimensional glowy pictures that I have. I don't know, does that sound like a category to you guys? You know what I'm talking about?
That sounds like a category we would
sounds
make,
about the genre of your work.
Yeah, if it's not that, it's probably usually Photoshop, just because, okay, this is so lazy of me. It's like also why I don't like lines. It's because when I open the Windows half of my computer, like my computer crashes like 30 times, and I'm just like, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to do that. So I usually don't. I usually just stick to Photoshop, because Photoshop, we're old friends, Photoshop and me. Photoshop and I. Oh no, my grammar. I don't know. I'm just more used to it. Doesn't crash my computer. All the watercolor sketchy ones are in Photoshop.
It's like, I feel like Photoshop's a really diverse program, but Psy's made specifically just for painting, so it's much easier to use for painting. Because I know Photoshop can do everything Psy can, just not as direct. And there's so many useful tools like it. You can do watercolory stuff in Psy and all this whatnot that you have to custom craft by yourself brushes for Photoshop. Unless you find a really good like brush download site.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people that we've spoken to have said the opposite. They use Psy for the line work because the stabilizer in it is amazing, and then they use the Photoshop for the painting and the coloring.
Crazy.
Well, to each their own, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I found as well. Psy is really good for line work, but Photoshop is better for coloring.
Line work. What is that?
What is that? So you had a couple more pieces in this kind of little series, I guess you would call it. The second one was made shortly after. What is that true? No, that's not true at all. That was made a year later. Never mind. I'm dumb. But anyways, you made another piece in that kind of same style. It was a Princess Celestia piece. In fact, it was called Princess Celestia. And this one's really interesting to me. It's very similar. It's got the same kind of from the bottom lighting effects that you had in the Luna piece. But what you also had was you had a lot of wind effects with the wings swooping down and this circular kind of circular composition. That was all intentional, right?
I guess the story behind this one is that as soon as I posted this Luna picture, everyone wanted to see a Celestia picture. So I decided that I had to produce that, and I had to produce it quickly. So of course it took me like a year at least. And so I think I finished. Yeah, I remember finishing this one and having the same problem. I had no idea what to do for the background. So I turned to orange things and bluish things. I guess it's more of a pink and blue here, but
more Celestia colors.
Yeah, Celestia colors. A lot of Photoshop. I love Photoshop. Photoshop is my friend. Oh, and her mane. Her mane took me like... I had to do it like 6 or 7 times before I found a way of representing it in sort of a three-dimensional esque manner that I could approve of and look at and think was okay. I just tried doing like stripey things like it looks like in the show, and I didn't know how to represent that. Like, is it smoke? Is it what is it? I have no idea.
Some
So
gaseous hair.
yeah, so I have like gaseous pink clouds. I was like, that's cool. I can dig that. So that's what I got.
Okay, making it
Turn out
kind
cool.
of cloudy.
Yeah, it kind of looks like celestial clouds almost. Like there's like some spacey.
Oh yeah, nebulas
cloud
or something.
thing. Yeah. It's really cool. I have this piece. I bought it from you at BronyCon.
Oh,
So it's
thank
amazing.
The
you.
piece I bought at BronyCon was actually the last piece of this rotation. It was your Princess Cadence piece. It
Woo!
was your 3 princesses.
Are we moving on to the best princess?
Who, Twilight?
Oh, shut up.
Hey.
I didn't get that. I went way over my head.
It's best. Move on,
Twilight.
Burns.
Okay, so well,
Twilight's
you
a
ruined
princess
it
now.
and you killed everything because I was gonna bring up the Cadence one, and then I was gonna ask. I was like, so since we have these 3 princesses, Luna, Celestia, and Cadence, can we expect the 4th princess, Twilight Sparkle, like another one to actually complete your rotation, as far as we know?
Am I supposed to answer that, or has it been ruined?
No, you could probably answer it.
Burns ruined it, but that's right anyway.
Yeah, no. I was totally expecting to have Princess Twilight before the last BronyCon, and I just never got to it because I'm super lazy. So yeah, there should be one, and
Okay.
my new deadline is the next season coming out. I hope to have that out by then. It's like November what?
Something.
November something. Yeah, very good.
It's sometimes rumored in November.
We should know
Yeah,
this.
you have a month.
We should know
Yeah.
this.
No, it's no. I think it's November 23rd.
You're pulling that out of midair, aren't you?
How was this rumored?
Or is this the? I think it's.
So on the
23rd.
subject of cadence,
Yeah.
you have a really interesting thing in the middle there, which is that crystal heart. And
So pretty.
what is that? Like, how did you make that?
Oh my god, that thing was a pain. Okay, that's like... Okay, so I didn't actually know how to draw crystals very well. Wow, I just said that with the most awful
That
accent.
was
I don't really know how to draw
fantastic.
crystals. So I had to like Google crystals and look at all these pictures, and that didn't help me at all. And then I looked at some tutorials for how to draw crystals, and that didn't help me at all. So I ended up just making like a gazillion different layers of little triangles and shaping them like a heart, and then putting them on all kinds of weird layer effects. And
All
in
the
the end,
layers.
it actually ended up looking like that, and I was so happy. I was like, "Wow, that
turned out
actually looks
pretty
like a
good.
crystal
No
heart."
way, no
So
way.
Very
basically,
good.
you just winged it, pun intended.
Yeah, sort
Well,
of.
that came out really well considering you just winged it. I mean, it even looks symmetrical. Like when you look at the
Well-
center of the heart, it's kind of symmetrical.
Oh yeah, no, that was intentional. That was intentional. The symmetry was intended. But yeah, I didn't actually know the right way to go about this, but I was pretty successful. So
Yeah,
That's cool.
no, it came out great. And again, you've got the same kind of composition that you had. The Celestia was more of a round composition. This one's a little bit more shaped like a heart. If you look at at the very bottom, it comes down to a point, and it's a little bit vague with the wings, but the wings kind of form the tip of the heart. So very, very interesting use of that. Again, was that intentional to make that kind of like a heart, or was that just a nice
sort of.
consequence?
Yeah, I wanted. Yeah, actually, I think it was. I think that was intentional.
Well, yeah, it's hard to make any character into a heart shape without contorting them. So I think you did a pretty good job there with her
Yeah,
trying
you
using
mean
tail
you
and
got
wings.
those like
DeviantArt
heart ponies and
is
stuff.
full of heart-shaped ponies, so
Yeah, no, it's very cute. I like this piece. This one was my favorite out of your rotation, probably for like the colors and then the composition of how she's kind of like lying there. I don't know. I really like the colors too. I like the colors on a lot of your work.
Yeah, you seem to experiment a lot with colors, Is experimenting with colors something that you always try to do, or?
Totally. Colors are awesome.
Radical.
That's yeah, I mean, that's like why I make those little watercolor backgrounds. It's just like, I'm gonna play with some colors now. It's a good time. It's a good time. I always go, before I submit pictures on DeviantArt, I always go do those cool Photoshop functions where it's like you get to play with the individual colors. That's a good time. That is a good time. I would definitely recommend that.
Do you have fun when playing with colors?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's all I do. That's all I do. I don't even sleep or eat. I just play with colors. And it's really great.
All day long.
I feel like that's the feeling I get from when looking at work, is that you just have tons of fun when playing with all these crazy colors in your pieces.
Yeah, no, it's totally awesome. It's totally the best thing ever.
So we still can't get over your style of like without lines. I just think that's so funny that you just try to avoid outlines, and that's how you come up with this like this insanely unique non-outline style that no one else really has at all, or even replicates. I don't know.
No one understands my struggles.
Yeah, nice try on that one, Burn.
Shh, it's okay. It's okay.
Well, how about a question formed around that? Does that make a little? Let's make
I like ponies with outlines.
Okay,
not.
Burn. Let me try and form that opinion into a question. So you a lot of your stuff has is lineless, and lines form a. Oh my god, I can't speak either. I mean,
it's okay. I can't either.
Lines have a purpose. Lines have a purpose, and it's to separate from background or from different parts of the body if they're the same color. So, what have you learned from using these lineless approaches? You've obviously had to use a lot more different techniques to differentiate different body parts and differentiate the characters from the background. So, what techniques have you learned from using this lineless style?
Oh my god, that question's so good.
Oh my, yeah, no, it totally is. Like, that's blowing my mind right now.
Did it just come naturally?
I mean, yeah, I kind of did. It's just like, it seems like it's like the only solution to not using lines in my head, I guess. It's obviously not, but it's how I deal with it. Yeah, I mean, like, if you got rid of the lines in any drawing, I'd assume that this is just how it would end up looking.
Fantastic.
I mean, if you think it looks fantastic, that's so sweet. But yeah, that's just how I've been doing it.
It's interesting because without the outlines, you definitely rely heavily on the shading. And I mean, even in like lined work, artists will add shading and stuff, but I feel like without having the outlines to kind of separate body parts or to show creases and stuff like that, you do have to kind of put in that extra shading.
No, definitely.
And that also kind of attributes to your style, is because you have this like shading, and it makes it look like really 3D, which is really cool.
So, and question for you.
Cool.
You are clearly a really skilled digital painter. That's how you make these things without lines come out so fantastic. So my question is kind of like an intro question to another question, but it doesn't matter. Are you taking any kind of like traditional like art classes or anything? Are you in kind of like an art school, or have you taken any kind of educational things like that?
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, people have been asking me for that for a long time, and the answer is no, until I decided after creating all of these that I would probably major in like something art related. So I actually took my first intro to drawing class like 3 semesters ago, which was very fun. I got to learn how to draw. And I'm currently in my first digital imaging class where they teach you how to draw in Photoshop. It's a good time, guys. I'm learning all about layers. So I hadn't really been taking any art classes. In my school system, you could only take like 1 extracurricular class per semester, and since I'm a band geek, I had to be in band. So no, I didn't get to take art until college, and now I'm at a liberal arts college, so just like everything goes. I'm in all kinds of classes, but I do intend to major in something or some things that have a lot to do with art. So right now, I'm down for studio art, and I'm going to double major in either art history or in like media stuff. That's my plan. That is my plan.
Cool.
Well, see, that's really cool to me, because when you're painting like this, Random Plasma Photo Guy brought up a good point, is that normally we use lines to differentiate things or separate things. So like, referring to more novice artists or aspiring artists, or maybe your beginner artist who's like watching our show or something, a lot of artists who are starting out will, use those lines and they'll default to that. That's how they'll separate one thing from one another. But when you're not using lines and you're just using colors, there's no real way to separate things or differentiate things. So when you are making these digital paintings and just using these colors, when you have to create the edge of something or the outline of something that doesn't technically exist, you're using one color hitting another color. And you seem to be using that really well. I mean, technically you're just painting a color on another color. And you're like, yeah, in your progress work, you lay out your base colors. But even when you shade it, you're shading and painting a piece, you're created with these problems of how do you make this one thing stand out from another or look 3D, and it comes into how you shade your objects. So like I'm staring at this Cadence piece, so like how you shaded it and how you basically work a piece without outlines to where when some people wouldn't know what they're doing with it. So like how Cadence's head stands out from her wings, or her arms stand out from the background, or what have you. You seem to be doing it in a well enough way and using intelligent enough choices in shading things and having colors touch other colors, and you're changing hues and values even of where things hit each other or come across, to where it creates an awesome digital painting. And it's really cool to me that that's self-taught and that you didn't have any kind of formal trainings. Like when I took painting 1, it was all about learning. If you want something to seem bright, you can darken what's around it, or vice versa. And all of your paintings are kind of warped in this way and built to where you just don't want to use outlines at all. So you use all these little tricks of painting, whether it's, shading or adding a gradient or whatever, to create this ridiculous piece once you finally ended up solving all of these tons of problems that you're presented with. And I think it's really cool. And I think that's any kind of aspiring artist can definitely look at your work and be like, wow, how did she tackle this? Or, solve this certain scenario in painting or using color. And it's really cool. I think there's a lot to learn from your art. I mean, even tons of stuff in painting that I don't understand. So I don't know. It's not really a question, but it's an observation, but awesome work. And I knowing how you've developed your art from to this point is still really cool. I don't know. There you go.
Can form that into a question. Because I'm magical. It's because of me.
It was a compliment.
Okay, so he was talking about the fact that it kind of came naturally to you to not use lines because it was just annoying to use lines.
Yeah.
Now, this is a hard question, I admit. So if you don't have an answer, then that's fine. But is there any advice? There's a lot of people out there that look at these things and lines come naturally to them, but things with no lines are kind of intimidating. So is there any advice to someone who wants to try out something with no lines? Is there a technique that they can use, or do you have any advice in general for people who want to try this outlineless approach?
Techniques you've learned from painting without them?
Oh my. Okay.
Spotlight.
I guess I don't know if I have. I can tell them what I do. I can tell them how I start any picture like this, because I think that I don't know, it's just the first steps to working on a painting like this is that instead of going from your sketch to your line art, you just go right from your sketch to your color blocking. You just skip the line art and just put the colors where they should go. Now, if you know where the lines are supposed to go, if you know that you would have had to draw the outline of Cadence's wing, instead of drawing the outline of her wing, just fill that area in pink. Or you can draw the outline in pink and then color in the outline pink, and you got Cadence's wing, but you don't have any lines on it. And you just do that for everything until you have your whole color block picture, but there aren't any lines on it. Then I usually do the background. So then I have the background and the color blocked image, and I need the character to stand out from the background. So I just go and I shade it so it looks like it fits in that environment. So I guess that's how I put them together. And if someone were trying to make a picture like this, that's the direction I guess I'd recommend they go in.
That's a great piece of advice, because a lot of people a lot of people like hearing the general stuff, like, oh, you should try this with shading or whatever. But having a step-by-step thing, I think, will help a lot more people, because people do like to see those tutorials, like you were talking before, not necessarily just general art advice, kind of like we show in the show.
Yeah, but see, that's interesting because if you take any more traditional or painting classes, like when I took Painting 1, it's always said like the foundation of whenever you're starting a painting is you start with your values, you start with that basic color tone or something. And that's what you start with, is you block down lights and darks and your like shadows or whatever. Value is the key word here. You block out your values first. So and then you build on that as your foundation. So your foundation for painting isn't the color blocks that you lay down first, it's your values. And as you make a piece, you lay down your color your color first, and then you kind of work your values on top of that, which is still and you still do a good job of it because you have a good understanding of value clearly. When looking at your piece, making all this shading. So, I mean, where you put that step in, digital art is kind of lost because painting has a lot more to do that, there's a term called fat over lean. So you start out with your basic values and then you paint light over that, so the value underneath still shows. But in digital art, you really don't have to worry about that. So you can still have a good understanding of value and then paint over the top of that and then create the pieces like you are creating here. So it's always cool to see, you know, a traditional how you start a piece to compare to digital how you start a piece. But anyway, tangent.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if this might have some effect. Is your pieces are very much about color, and the diversity of color. And so to me, it doesn't seem like putting color down before setting your values really would make that much difference, because the color to me is probably very important in your pieces. Whereas like in a lot of other artist pieces, the value of the piece is a lot more important. So I don't know. It kind of seems to make sense that you would lay down color first, since it's a very big part of your art.
You seem to value it over other aspects.
Color's awesome.
I feel like we say the word value too much.
Did you say value?
It's okay.
Not enough.
It's okay. You guys sound so smart. I love it. I wish I could talk like that.
I wish we were actually smart.
Well, I know. We just spew off words, value, atmosphere.
No, that's great. I am so jealous. I mean, like, that is so useful in like art history classes, and I just don't have that.
If I may, Burn, before you go off on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that we sound smart in this kind of stuff, because the four of us walked into this podcast 66 weeks ago with, to be honest, a horrible knowledge of art. I
had a somewhat knowledge of art.
A great appreciation for art, but not a lot of knowledge about it. And I think this is a slightly strange example, but a perfectly legitimate example of, if you put the time and you have the motivation to learn, you will just naturally learn. We've naturally learned through having people on and just, taking art classes like Burned has, and just accumulating this knowledge over time, and suddenly 66 episodes later we have someone saying that you sound really smart about art. That doesn't make a lick of sense to us, but you know what, I think that's a natural process when it comes to art in general. If someone had started drawing on episode 1 of our show, I have no doubt in my mind that they would, even without our show, be a better artist by episode 66, just because time is great for teaching you lessons naturally.
It really is.
So yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I think it's really interesting, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious to me that you would say we sound smart, because we're not. We really aren't.
Have you taken any art history classes, Dawn?
Oh yeah. Trying to remember the one I'm currently in, and I can't. That's so sad. You know why? It's because I was at the MFA all day researching paintings for that class, and
what
so
kind of
my brain is
dead.
dead.
Maybe I can help.
Oh, I'm in modern art. I'm in modern art after 1900. I don't like modern art, guys. Sorry, but art history is very fun.
Yeah.
It's very fun, but modern art is not my thing.
Okay, I just got one last little piece to bring up, which we didn't mention before for some reason, but it goes along with your princesses one. You've actually made one of Queen Chrysalis, which is...
of course.
I don't know why we didn't include her, but there's that one there, which is Queen Chrysalis, and it has the glowy green, which we so love.
Ah, there we go.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Glow green.
One for Brenda.
All the glowies.
Sweet.
I don't know.
It's-
Looking at your
yeah.
other pieces, I kind of like the glowy purple and stuff. And the
All
blues.
right. Well, let's not get into
Glowy blue and
specific
glowy green.
glowy stuff. You said you had one more question then?
Does
Atlas?
cadence glowy count as an adjective?
Oh, burnt.
No. Okay, well, I have one last question to ask as well. We asked every artist that we have, every artist that we have on, what advice have you got for newer artists who are trying to get into making pony art or just art in general? What advice do you have for them just trying to start up?
Oh my gosh. Ooh.
Big questions.
Oh, I know. Keep a sketchbook. I'm sure that everyone says this. I actually don't know what everyone says, but I feel like everyone probably says this.
We
Keep a
haven't gotten it
sketchbook
before.
with you at all times
Yeah.
because it's good to always doodle. Because doodling is the path to greatness. I know, because I doodle in all my classes, and I'm great. So
I'm
should doodle.
gonna quote you on that.
Doodling is like constant experience. If you think about it,
That's true.
it's constant practice.
And it's always with you. So when you get that inspiration, art is practice and motivation. So if you have a sketchbook with you, then you'll always be ready when inspiration strikes.
Expansive question on that. We asked you how you make good digital paintings and stuff, but do you have any kind of more artsy fartsy, like more traditional art advice that maybe you've learned that you'd like to share and how you make digital paintings? Anything like that?
Oh my god, I totally do. Do I have it in my brain right now?
Or maybe a favorite aspect, whether it be how colors interact or something.
Um,
I'm really digging here, but
Oh my god, I definitely have some things. I'd love to tell the world that I'm just not thinking about right now.
In all fairness, that was a huge question.
15 seconds
Always
of
use line art.
I always, these things always occur to me. I'm like, I really should share this with someone, but I don't have that opportunity yet, so I'll share it when the opportunity comes, and now the opportunity's here, and I don't remember. Okay. Since I don't
always
remember any
happens.
of, like, the really just basic ones, I'll share a slightly more advanced tip, which is something that I think is really helpful when you're trying to make a picture look 3D or painterly, like my super glowy painterly series we've been talking about, which need a better name. It's really important to remember how light will bounce off of other objects and how the light bouncing will differ depending on the texture or like the warmth or color of the light. That's just really important. And one of the things that didn't really, one of the reasons my paintings didn't look really grounded until more recently, they're still not perfect, but it's because I didn't do those bouncing shadows and the bouncing light very well, and I've gotten a little bit more of a handle on that, and I think that's really helped me out a lot. So observing the way that light works and shadows work, that's just really important. Yeah, pay attention to that.
Oh, very cool. I remember we had another guest on named Spirit, and how she put it is bounced light. But I think that's because of her accent,
Bounced light, I like that.
which is awesome. Refractive lighting is what I call it, but it's probably the
Yeah,
wrong
you know what?
term, but
That's
we know what you mean.
probably the official term for it. But like I said, so impressed by your guys' big words.
I usually don't know the correct big word for something,
So
so
you
you
just
just make
throw
up
like
my own.
3 or 4
Yeah, no, totally. Me
until it
too.
works.
Burn just likes speaking fancy.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Fancy
It's
talk.
crazy.
He's a
So
fancy
impressive.
person. All right.
All right.
Well, unfortunately, we are coming up on time, so we're going to have to cut this one off here. But is there anything else that you'd like to say before we start wrapping up here?
Me?
How about places where we can find you and plug your websites and things?
Yes. So we can find you on DeviantArt, obviously, with Celebi-Yoshi on DeviantArt.
Yeah.
But where else
We are
I
not going to
have
find
you?
at all.
like your
I have an
Tumblr and
art
stuff.
Tumblr, which is dawnfire.tumblr.com, but the I is the number 1. And I have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/dawnfirepony, which I just started up recently. So there's not much on it.
We'll go like you on Facebook.
Yay! I'd
Yeah.
be so happy. And I have a personal Tumblr. You can find all this stuff on my DeviantArt page. I have this links section. So you should stalk me, because it will make me feel loved.
Oh, okay, so everything's kind of grounded in that.
Finally,
DeviantArt
something
page.
I'm good at.
Yay!
All right. So do we want to do our plugs?
I can do
Wait,
that.
just a
Alright.
gosh dingle dang second. I just wanted to say, before we get into our plugs, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was great to have you.
It was really fun.
Yay! Really fun. It was really fun.
So now, if you will excuse us for a moment, we will go into our own plugs,
Okay.
if you will.
Okay.
Which I will. Okay, so our DeviantArt account, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, you should all know that by now. We have Facebook, which is facebook.com/cutieartcrusaders, Twitter @cutieartcrusade, YouTube cutieartcrusaders. YouTube.com/cutieartcrusaders, and email, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. You can contact us all those ways. We all watch them. Yeah.
And now it's going to be even easier through our DeviantArt account because you can just mention us. So good.
Right.
I love
Yes.
it.
Yay!
Love it. All right.
So good.
Well, I suppose that's everything for this week, unless you guys, the podcast guys, had anything else to say.
Your ponies are pretty.
Thanks again for coming. Yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you
This
very
is
much
fun.
for coming on. It was a lot of fun. You know, I find it really amazing because when we have interviews, obviously everybody who we have on, has different personalities and different art that we can feature. But we always try to think of, what's the thing that's different about this one. And the thing that I find amazing is we can sit an artist down, and every artist, we always learn something new, and there's always something different that we're bringing up. And the same for this interview. So yeah, I find it fascinating. So just in general, thank you for coming on because we did learn some stuff today. And hopefully that'll help us sound even smarter in the future.
Yay!
Super
Thank
smart.
you.
My favorite part is
Smart.
learning how each artist develops. So it's like knowing the fact of how you just don't like outlines and that's why you avoid them and have created this unique style. It's like, it's awesome.
Yeah, and
I mean,
the next
everyone
time we'll
digs
look at
for-
one of your pieces, it'll be like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's the reason why.
Everyone digs for that unique style, and you've kind of developed it and, warped into it and creating this really cool style that's kind of consistent throughout your DeviantArt gallery. And everyone digs for that and wishes for that. And just to know how it's created which is the hatred towards creating digital line art. It's really cool. And I don't
Hatred's
know,
a little
it's
bit of a
awesome.
strong word.
It's the context in which we apply towards art that gives it value and meaning. And I mean, that's what I've been learning in art history. So it's like having that context towards pony art makes me love it all the more. And it's really cool. And it was awesome having you on.
That was so smart. Wow, awesome. Okay. God, so impressed. Just being blown away by you guys.
Oh well, thank
Oh.
He just likes to
Thanks,
sound
Frank.
smart.
Once again,
Meaningful.
sounding smart, being smart, two different things.
Experience. It's all about experience.
We're just really good talkers. All right, well, that is everything for this week. Thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we'll be back next week with Burn. Do we have another special guest? Holy cow!
Right now, currently, we do not have anyone scheduled for next week, so it might be a theme, but we'll see.
All right, well, if it is
So if there is a theme,
right, it'll probably be a theme. So
It'll be here.
it'll be up on the
It'll be
screen
right
there.
here.
That will be next week's theme. So look forward to that, guys. Hopefully it's something cool and not something cop-outy. All right, well, that is everything for this week. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Burned01.
I'm Flutterguy317.
And I am Admiral Sparrock.
You can say your name.
Feel free to say your name.
Oh, hi, I'm DawnFire.
Yeah.
There we go. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you so much.